Hello and welcome to Nosotros, the podcast that explores San Antonio's politics, its people, arts, and cultura. I'm your host, Elaine Ayala, and I'm thrilled about my guest today. She's a legend in San Antonio. Maria Berriozabál was the first Mexican-American woman to be elected to San Antonio's City Council. For 10 years, she was on that council, serving as an unflinching advocate for people. And they were central to every vote she cast. Her service stood out for its commitment to working class people, to housing, and environmental issues. She saw each issue through a lens that focused on her low-income neighborhoods. To this day, I know I'm not alone in lamenting the fact that she lost her mayoral race by just 3 points. She's a thought leader, a motivator, and what I appreciate most about her is that she's so hopeful about San Antonio's future, not because she's Pollyannish, but because she's mentored so many young activists already at work in their communities. Welcome, Maria. Congratulations on receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award from Southwest Voter Registration Education Project. I have so many questions, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Mm-hmm. I'll start with this. Because we have so many young voters, young readers, listeners, and a lot of new San Antonians who may not know you. Let's start with your early life, your family's immigrant story, and how they influenced your life before politics came into the picture.
First of all, Elaine, thank you so much for having me in your program. I appreciate your column, and I appreciate that you're doing this for our community. In 1910, there was a revolution in Mexico. Millions of people left, Mexicans. They came to the cities, they came to the countries. My families, the Arredondo family and the Rodriguez family, ended up in Lockhart, Texas, building community there. They had a hard time because there was discrimination, there was racism, there were economic struggles, but they had a great faith. And one of two of the values that my parents instilled on all of us was that we had to, number one, appreciate community, appreciate family, and that we could do it because we had a deep faith. The issue of faith is very important in my life.
And in your politics, in a way.
Well, yeah, I don't talk about it. It's like, I believe in the message of Jesus to help your neighbor and to love your neighbor. And that's very simple. That's it.
Very central.
Very central to the faith. And that's what my parents taught all of us. Now, one memory that I have that is really my first memory of faith, and I like to share it because it changed my life. That's how I met God and the whole idea of spirituality. We were little, my two brothers and I, and we were in a bed with my mother. And she was doing something, and it was like a mantra. It was very soft, and she kept saying it over and over and over. And it gave me peace. It gave me joy. I felt close to my mother. I felt safe. When you're a baby, that's very important. And she was praying. She was praying the rosary. She was saying Hail Mary over and over.
Oh, so it's very repetitive, like a Buddhist chant.
It was a chant. It was a chant. It was a prayer. And that's what the rosary is. You say it over and over. Uh-huh. And I'm amazed, as I grew up, how much that sense of security, that sense of doing that chant, whatever it is, at whatever age, is dealing with something that's bigger than you. And that's where you get your sustenance.
So beautiful. There are a lot of stories out there in our community about the rosary. I have one myself. Someday I'll tell that one. You were on the subject of women and mothers and in our lives, and you've long talked about Latinas and the Latina population of San Antonio in a very interesting way about how they're key to the well-being of the city. Talk about that. How so?
Well, the thought comes to me right now, Elaine, of Mrs. Luz Escamilla, who was the founder of the Mexican American Business and Professional Women's Club in 1972. And it was the first time that Mexican American women in San Antonio and probably Texas came together on their own. She used to say, cuando educas un hombre, educas un individuo. Cuando educas una mujer, educas una familia. When you educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a family,
when you educate a woman,
you educate a family.
Uh-huh.
So going by that thinking.
So true.
Yes,
so true.
Yes. So many single moms. So when you look at San Antonio and you see that even now and for some time already, the Latino, Hispanic, as the census calls us, population is the largest. So when you consider that females within that population, excuse me, are the majority
of that population.
Latinas are the largest number of people in San Antonio.
Okay, I love that statistic.
Yes.
But it's also daunting.
Well, what happens when you invest in a woman, you invest in a family, you invest in a community. And if women were doing really well, if our Latina population, who are the mothers and a huge chunk of the workers at all levels, running businesses, cleaning floors.
And being caretakers of our children and our elders.
Exactly. So to me, the investment in that population of women will dictate how San Antonio does. We are still a poor city. We're the 7th largest city in the country, and we're still a poor city. When is that going to happen? What are we doing to invest in that large population of people, talented, intelligent, young? Above all, we are a young population.
So we're the future generation, too.
40% in the state of Texas. So I'm really committed to working with Latinas because to me is you lift that boat and you lift everybody else.
That's right. That's right. The human, the capital investment in those humans will pay off for everybody.
Yes.
And especially in a city and in places in the city where there has been persistent poverty. After all these years, that poverty is persistent. Okay, your council election. It was a big deal. It happened in 1981. Mm-hmm. Take us back to that time, how you got elected and how you stayed for 10 years.
10 years. That's a wonderful story. And again, I will focus on the women because I was not part of the establishment, right? The people that I ran against and the person that I ran in a runoff, he was a police officer, had been a police president of the police union, and he was really connected to the parties, to the power, and to the money. So here I decide to run because my community wanted me to. Maria, run, my husband, my family. So I ran. And the idea that we had was we're going to go and get the votes of people who never vote. It's young people. It's women that are busy. Maybe they don't get there. They're not the ones that are known. It's the little people. And so I started with the people in my church that I had, been very active in, the women, the Latinas that I worked with. And so I had all these people involved. A wonderful story I have is of these two ladies, Mrs. Nerio and Mrs. Arellano. Their husbands and families were very involved in politics, mostly men. And they were supporting me, but they never got involved, right? They never said who they were supporting. And their parents, their husbands and children, boys, were supporting my opponent. So they got involved, and at a point, you had one, the father had the name of the opponent and the mother had my name. Not only that, but they started block walking. They were old. These were ladies.
And they had never done that before.
No, they were the mother, they were the grandmother. And, in our community, la mamá is like very important. Yeah. She's at home. She's, gets serenatas and this. these ladies went out and block walked. Well, they were able to touch a community that nobody else had. Young people, and people that were just beginning to organize the neighborhood movement. This was 1981, and now neighborhood associations they have power. Not in 1981, but I had met them. I had met King William people and Beacon Hill people and Monte Vista people that are the tier 1 around downtown. So it was very targeted groups that I wanted to vote, and
they got out. And, I love that voter advocates always remind us that, yes, we need to register people to vote, but the most important thing is to get out those that are already registered, because that would affect an election like nothing else. Okay, you're 82 now. Wow. Congratulations. You look great. And you left public office in 1991, though you never left community service. And you're involved even today. Tell us what you did post-council, starting with your stay at Harvard. Talk about that and what that led to.
Well, it's losing a race that was that huge. It got national attention.
Yes, this was the mayor's race against Nelson. Ultimately
Wolf.
Against Nelson.
Nelson Wolf. It was major for me. The memory while it's happening is sheer joy. Working by 5 in the morning, shaking hands with bus drivers to 11 o'clock at night, getting to the office, full of energy, and my workers are there. How do you have so much energy? Well, because you get the energy from the people. There were 9 people who ran for mayor. The Lila Cockrell, may she rest in peace, incredible woman.
A lovely lady.
Yes. I got 33% of the vote
in the general.
In the general election. Nelson Wolf got, I think, I got 33. Lila got like 26, and Nelson got like 24. So I got 33% out of 9.
So I love how your husband says, for a little while you were the mayor.
my daddy.
Oh, your dad said that.
My daddy would tell me every day, hijita, eres alcaldesa por 2 semanas. Yeah, I was mayor for 2 weeks. And during that campaign, what I learned was how much power we don't have, which is why I lost. The power is in the hands of very few people. And we have to know that. We have to know that there's a bigger political picture there.
We have to negotiate.
And that it's hard. It's hard to keep pushing and pushing against like really powerful forces. But I did, and I lost, and it was hard. But then I got a phone call offering me a fellowship at Harvard University, like 2 months after I lost. And I accepted it, and I went to Harvard, spent a fall in New England.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah, fall will never be the same. And I had these wonderful students. And one of the things that they did, here I am, I've just lost a race. I've been working 10 years on housing and children and the elderly and all this water, energy, and having a difficult time. So they wanted to know the story. What about this? What about that? I took all my materials and videos from my mayoral race. So 2 of the women in public policy analyzed them. So they had really studied me. And then they kept saying, you did that? So why did you do that? I mean, couldn't you have like negotiated or compromised? There are issues that there's no compromise.
Water is no compromise.
Well, water. Either you build Applewhite in the South Side, which we defeated gladly, or you don't. I mean, it's
saving a very important archaeological area for Native Americans.
Yeah. So how do you compromise that? You just kill a little bit. Anyway, there's some things that is no, that's it. And somebody has to say it. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's going to cost you votes. You know what? what's more important, me being here, one person, or a value, something that people are saying, something that is protecting Mother Nature? What's more important, you and your position, or that message? Mm-hmm. And then you pray and hope that there are people out there that are going to pick it up. Mm-hmm. You know, what those students did, they showed me the value of that. Sometimes the value of no, you know. Mm-hmm.
And the value of documentation of all this, which led
to my book. Mm-hmm. Because what they did, you should write a book. You need to tell those stories, how you got there, but your family, they were impressed because I told them the story of my family, and they were impressed because that was their story too. For many of them, maybe it was Germany or maybe it was, some Asian country, but they were immigrants too at some point.
And the book, by the way, it's a beautiful book, and it's titled Maria, Daughter of Immigrants.
Yeah. But the most important message that I got at Harvard University, at that beautiful place, beautiful students, these students, bright, they affirmed and they gave value to my work. I mean, I had loss, and they gave value to that loss. Mm-hmm. I mean, you lost because of this. Hey,
it's
good.
It's a powerful message.
I know it. So that's my book, so I wrote my book.
I want to go back to another one of your memories that I've interviewed you several times through the years, and it stays with me. And it's about you riding the bus and what that bus, through many, many years of riding the bus, because I don't think you learned to drive until you were
40.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So you rode the bus a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And at first your family didn't have a car. So, tell us about that experience and what it taught you.
The first ride on the bus, we lived on Martin Street, so we just went straight to downtown on the Martin bus, was my mother taking us to the library in the bus, just showing us this is the library, and then going to the young people's room and the elephant and the world that it opened for me and for my brothers that were closer to my age. That's the first one. The second one is taking the bus to Providence High School. And I would ride the bus to downtown. And in my neighborhood, most of the young people went to Fox Tech. And I remember sitting there with my little blue uniform and watching all these girls from Fox Tech. And I was saying, my goodness, they are all so beautiful.
You didn't feel beautiful in your little blue uniform?
No, absolutely not. And my little blue and white shoes, and here they are with these beautiful skirts. And
was that poodle skirts?
The poodle, yeah.
They're beautiful.
And the little sweaters with the little collars. And not all of them, but they wore clothes that I didn't have, because I just needed a uniform. And, we invested in the uniform and not in pretty little dresses. And this is 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. So that's an experience. And I would get to sit with some of them. I had to, right? But to me, it was just outside and seeing pretty girls and handsome young men, of course, because I didn't go to school with young boys. The other experience was, I started working. I started working at the Salvation Army right after high school because my mission was to help my parents because my younger siblings were all, in school, and we wanted them to finish school, whatever that meant. So I decided, I'm going to go to college at night, San Antonio College, which I did, and I'm going to work during the day. So my first job was with the Salvation Army. My next job was with Hemisphere 68. The first one was at S.H. Kress and Company. All of them, so from 1955.
They were all on the bus route.
They were all on the bus route. They were all downtown. Mm-hmm. Even the American Federation of Government Employees, that's at Kelly, I took 3 buses, okay? But the most important ride was my house, kind of close to 24th Street to downtown, because I got to see the changes of the inner city in those 20 years. I got to see businesses disappear. I got to see the impact of urban renewal, not just in the actual site, but in the neighborhoods around it. And it was very sad seeing And I noticed, I studied. I wasn't just sitting on the bus. I was, oh my goodness, that store is closing now. There used to be like the Italian store, a church, the Maronite church that was there. And all these businesses that I used to see, and then all of a sudden they're gone. The houses start to have weeds around them. And in the years that have passed, I have looked at those years. Okay, so what was happening then? And it's very interesting because it continues to happen in the West Side.
It continues to happen.
It's disappearing.
Yeah, you could see the signs of gentrification. I live in the very near West Side on Buena Vista, and houses around me have signs for sale, and some of the older families are gone. The elders are gone, and those speculators, those developers, their offers can be enticing for some of them, and there's something in the renewal. I do see something in the renewal because I have seen some new businesses come in and they're Latino owned and they're fresh and they're young and they're hungry. That's beautiful to see that they've taken ownership. And I just wrote about the San Antonio Philharmonic taking offices on the West Side.
That was, West Side.
I mean, I've had nothing but positive reaction to that story. So, but there is that encroachment that it's tough on the housing market. It's tough on people to afford a decent place to live.
But there's like an important question. In the issue of gentrification, what results in gentrification. Anytime we think, okay, public money is going to be used for this, for an economic generator, we're going to put this stadium or this university or this a structure that's called an economic generator. Every time we do that, even if it's a business, we have to always ask, how is that going to affect the people who have been there for generations? We have to ask the question. Then the answer can be different things. One can be, we don't care. If they have to leave because the taxes go up, it gentrifies, fine. But at least a question has to be asked and answered. What investment are you making in the housing, in the fabric of neighborhood, so that you can enhance it with more things? How can you steady the culture of neighborhood so that it'll sustain new people coming in?
And there's an environmental impact too. Talk about that, because we're now seeing, besides the Pearl and that huge generator and changing Broadway, and probably Breckenridge Park, but also what will be the impact of putting these huge buildings, these huge institutions and their parking lots in the middle of downtown?
Well, and right now, people are talking about baseball park, basketball park with thousands of parking spaces needed. That's concrete. Whatever it is concrete. And it's in an area that's the biggest heat island in the city, where if at the airport it's 105 degrees, where this man recently died was 114. People are walking around in 114 that if you fall, you better be careful because you're going to burn if you don't get up right away. So we have to think of all those things. The environmental issues that we're suffering because of climate change need to always be there, whatever policies we make. Always, we are a poor city. How are we going to lift the lives of those women we were talking about? What's this decision going to do for that community? And what's it going to do to the environment? To walk by buildings and see people with water spreading, their green lawns.
I'm proud of my brown lawn.
I'm proud of my brown lawn. We should have a sign that says, I'm proud of my brown lawn.
This sort of leads to the next question is, what's your advice for young people who are considering a life in politics or public service? I'd love to know what you say to them, what you think about when you see that either that ambition or that longing in them.
And I hope that there are many and that they're not disappointed in government these days and that they decide that they can change it. You know, young people can do it. And because they're so high tech and they understand, technology, I suggest that they create their own app. Their app is their life. They got to know who they are. You got to know who you are. You have to know, where you came from, who got you there, on whose shoulders do you stand. And then you have your experience, your education, your volunteer work. And then you take that to the public setting. In other words, it's not like, well, you're this person, but you're going to go sit there and you're going to become that. People say, oh, well, I can't run because I don't know politics.
You don't become, you bring it.
Yes, that's a great way to put it succinctly. I can't do that, but to take who you are and what you're going to do, that's your gift, who you are, where you've been, because you're of the people. And our government is you represent the people. So you're of the people, so you go, and this person that's like all the others is there, and you don't lose that. You don't say, well, I'm here, and I really don't like this because my community is not going to like it, but you know what? I kind of have to do it because everybody else is doing it.
You conform.
You conform.
You become part of that political class.
So just stick to your values. Stick to who you are. Invest in yourself. Educate yourself. Read. I mean, now everything is in Google. What's happening? Who's saying what? What are they going to do with my money? I need a house. Right now I'm having a hard time buying a house. Why can't I buy a house? Mm-hmm. Who's making the decisions? Be informed. Read. Educate yourself at whatever age.
That's right. Okay. What are you working on today? What are some of the issues that you care about that you're working on, even if we don't read about it in the paper anymore?
Well, a lot of people know me, and, I have connections. Right now, I'm a caregiver for my husband. That's what I do. I'm not able to do much.
By the way, I should interject here that just besides your Lifetime Achievement Award from Southwest Voter, you and your husband were recently honored by UTSA with an endowed chair named in both of your names. How wonderful is that, to an institution that he gave his life to and that you always promoted?
And that I'm a graduate from UTSA, class of 79. And the great thing is that they have just hired the first faculty of the Berriozabál chair. And her name is Dr. Erica Tatiana Camacho. She was a student of Jaime Escalante. Wow. He encouraged her to go to college. She went to Wellesley. She went to Cornell. She's brilliant, and she's going to be at UTSA. I'm going to meet her next week.
Oh,
we're going to meet her next week. But I am honored, privileged, happy to have lived what we just celebrated 46 years of marriage, my husband, Manny, and me. Thank you for bringing that up.
He's a wonderful, wonderful man.
A good
incredible
man.
Contributions.
And brilliant.
So
I never know. I'm doing my house. I'm cleaning. Everybody should be downsizing. And when you die, don't let somebody else do the work. Do it yourself. So that's what I'm doing. And it's a lot of work. But I get a call or I read the paper. I read your column. I read somebody else's column. I see something on television. I gotta say what I think. Well, one is just on Facebook putting all I think.
Yes.
The other one is helping people get to meetings and stuff. I learned that somebody's having a meeting on something. Okay, let's go. Right now, a very important issue that I think most people think has already died, and it really hasn't. When people give up, it dies. People have not given up. And that's the changes that are being made at Brackenridge Park. They're tearing down trees. They're shutting killing the habitat for birds. And the indigenous community of this city has filed a lawsuit against the city for what they're preparing to do, because they are destroying their church, actually, because that's where they go pray. It's a very sacred space for them. And they filed the lawsuit, and I really would encourage everybody to just go to the computer and Google the lawsuit against the city so they can learn why that space is sacred. And it so happens that there's a constellation of stars that is mirrored by the shape of the river where they pray. I mean, there's a picture, in the lawsuit. It goes like that, it goes like that. And then down here, there's a river, goes like that, goes like that.
That's miraculous. It's just beautiful.
It mirrors it. I mean, I get chills when I first read it. And I said, how come I didn't know this? How come I didn't know that? And that the blue hole around where our water is born, we have water. The city was shaped because of water. And that blue hole is important. The river starts there coming into the city. So, I just encourage people to just inform themselves, even if it's just to read the lawsuit. And then there'll be meetings, because the very small group is, working with some really good attorneys on that lawsuit, and it's going to be heard in September sometime.
Okay.
But that's a very important issue. One that I'm working with. Immigration is never over. There's always the issue of immigration. Housing, there's always the issue of housing. That doesn't go away. There's always the issue of water. There's always the issue of energy. How much do poor people pay? What are we doing to rate structures? All those things, one can have a little influence, even if it is just providing the history. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. This already happened. Let me tell you, this happened. Use it any way you want to, but know that we have been here before. And if you live long enough, you're going to know a lot. Just because you lived long enough, not because you're so smart.
You remember all the stories.
You remember all the stories.
Once again, you're so hopeful. And there's a reason for that we were just talking about recently, that you spouted out a lot of names that I did not recognize. But you know them. You mentor them. This is why you're helpful. Tell us about them. Mention some of them. What are they doing?
I think there's a space in humans that embrace the young. Like parents, I'm sure, know that. Mm-hmm. And when you have children, your hope is your children. I mean, you'd have to be, I don't know, not to say, hey, there's children, there's grandchildren. I mean, that's what I produce. And I think maybe that's where things come from. But I have met young people, and I listen to them, and then they start frustrated about this issue, or, we did this and we lost, and this is what government does. So then, but they start talking about the way they see it. And instead of being an older person says, no, that's not the way it's done. No, God puts, if humanity is going to evolve, I think it's going to evolve from the minds of the young that are born and come with new ideas. Your child, my God, look at this child. He's 5 and look what he's doing. That's a treasure. And then to meet one, okay, so he's a lawyer. To meet another one, I met her because we were having this a fight, like PGA, and we lost. And she got so frustrated that she went back to school and got a doctorate. Another one that hadn't finished her college, she goes back and she goes to college. Another one that has her master's, goes and gets her doctorate. Another one that's really grassroots, working in her neighborhood, has learned about the problems of climate change, in her own neighborhood. And what we have a responsibility to do in our own family too. Children, this does not exclude, family members that are young, that we listen to them, that we provide that history. Oh, you know what you're thinking? Let me tell you what was done before. So our job is, okay, I'll fill in the blanks and let me see you dream. What do you want to do? And then commit to supporting them. When they're sad, to say, don't give up. No, Look, a lot of people came before you and did all this. And look at in our Mexican-American community, all the things we can tell them. Look at all the organization that these young Latinos, Chicanos at the time, the institutions they formed.
And a lot of them are having the 50th
anniversary.
All in a row, all because of 1967, 68, 69, they're all lining up.
So what happened 50 years ago? What was happening that young people decided, you know what? It's about going to the courts. It's about law. Another one said, nope, it's about voting. We're going to vote. Another one said, no, it's about concentrating on education. Another one said, you know what? We're going to invest in children. They were young.
And they made a huge impact.
Yeah.
So we're not done. There's so much more to do.
No. And it's being done. People are forming their groups and we don't know them yet, but I call them the map makers.
The map
makers. They're the children. They're the young people that are shaping these maps. And there's going to come a time, I'm not going to be here, when those minds and hearts are going to be needed to solve problems that we cannot even imagine what they are. We cannot imagine. We see Maui burn. We see glaciers. I mean, we see floods. Like, it's huge.
The wildfires and the hurricanes, all of it extreme weather.
But to me, the hope is in the children, in the map makers, and like parents who really invest in shaping the lives of these beautiful children, and that I know many of them. So at this time, I get frustrated and I get angry, disappointed when I see things happening with our democracy, breaks my heart. But I can't say, oh, forget it. No. That hope has to be, keep hope alive that the African-American community taught us.
Well, that's a wonderful place to end this segment. I can tell you that I can talk to Maria Berriozabál for hours and I won't be done. And through the years, I've just been so honored that you've taken time to tell me stories that I've been able to write about. And I thank you once again. And let's celebrate your 82 years and let's celebrate your anniversary with Manny. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much.